You spend enough time in the woods, you start to notice the little things. Twigs that break wrong. Tracks that double back. Sounds that don't belong. I've been hunting since I was 12. My dad used to call it learning the rhythm of the wild. Said if you sit still long enough, the forest talks back. Last October, I went up north alone. There's this ridge about 10 miles out from any proper road. My dad called it Quiet Top. Said game moves strange up there. I never hunted it with him. He always warned me off, but I guess after he passed, I wanted to walk where he did. Honor, maybe? I set up camp at the base on a Thursday. Weather was dry. Quiet. Eerily so. First night was normal. Whiskey, fire, a few deep breaths into the cold air. The kind of peace you only find when no one knows where you are. Next morning I headed up. The ascent is gradual, then steep near the top. About halfway up, I found something off, a boot print. Old. Faint. Not mine. Not fresh. But it was headed up the ridge. Toward the summit. I got this tight feeling in my chest but ignored it. Could have been a hiker. Could have been Dad. Maybe he'd come up here more recently than I thought. I kept going. At the top, I found a clearing. Ring of pines all around, like they were protecting it. In the middle was an old fire pit and 3 short wooden posts, each one burned black at the top like candles. There were rusty beer cans, a strip of blue tarp half buried in soil, and a tree with a thick nail still sticking out of it. Like someone had hung something there once. No animals. No birdsong. Just the wind cutting in low bursts. I didn't stay long. Took some photos. Marked it on my GPS. The whole place felt watched. Like how it feels right before a deer bolts. Like you're being scoped by something higher on the food chain. I camped again that night. Drank less. Fire burned lower. Around 2 a.m. I heard movement, steady, heavy movement. Too big to be a deer. I grabbed my rifle and flashlight, stayed low in the tent, not making a sound. Footsteps passed within yards, crunching dried leaves like it didn't care who heard. Then it stopped. Right outside the tent. There was this long pause. Minutes, maybe? I didn't breathe. Then I heard it sniff. Once. Just one long inhale. Then nothing. Not footsteps walking away. Just absence. Like the sound had been erased. I waited until sunrise before unzipping the tent. There were no tracks. No marks. But the ground was wrong, flattened in a ring around my tent, like something had circled it again and again, pressing the leaves down over and over. I packed up fast. But on the way down, I noticed something else. More boot prints. Not just one set. 3, maybe 4 different ones, all going uphill. None coming down. I was the only one leaving. I tried not to think about the boot prints. I tried not to think about the ridge at all, to be honest. For weeks after, I avoided the woods entirely. Cleaned my guns. Cleaned them again. I'd start awake at night, sure I'd heard something sniffing outside my window. But there was never anything there. Eventually, I convinced myself it had all just felt worse than it was. Maybe I was grieving Dad. Maybe I wanted the trip to mean something. Maybe I was drunker than I'd admitted. By January, the snow came in thick. You can't hunt in it long, but I went out for rabbits anyway, easy kills, small game. I stuck close to town. Nothing serious. But one morning, while tracking something through a shallow ravine, I found a shape half buried in the drift. At first I thought it was a stump. It wasn't. It was one of the burned posts. Just like the ones from the ridge clearing. Same height. Same charring. But now it was down here, in town limits. No trail leading to it. No prints. Nothing. I stood there, staring, until I noticed the second one. About 10 feet away. Also half buried. Same kind. Then I noticed the third. That one had a nail sticking out of it. I backed out of the ravine fast. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak in the house made me jump. I swore I could hear breathing just behind the walls. My dog wouldn't stop growling at the corners. The next morning, I drove out to Dad's old storage unit. I needed answers. I remembered he'd kept some of his old hunting journals, and I hoped maybe he'd written about the ridge. The unit was a mess of crates, gear, and mildew. Took hours to find the right box. And then I saw it. A photo. One I'd never seen before. It was him, my dad, much younger. He stood at the ridge clearing, beside those same burned posts. But they looked newer in the photo. Less decayed. And there was something hanging from the nail in the tree. A deer's heart. Below the photo was a page from one of his journals, scrawled in a rushed, slanted hand. First one didn't bleed. Second ran for miles with half a lung. Third walked right into camp after we gutted it. They don't stay dead here. Burned them. Still came back. Ridge doesn't let go. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I looked closer at the photo. There were people in the background. 3 men, just shadows between trees, watching him. You wouldn't notice unless you really looked. Their faces weren't clear. But the outlines of their bodies were wrong. Thin in places, bloated in others, like they'd been stretched or collapsed inward. I never told anyone what I found. A week later, I woke up to find a fresh boot print in my backyard. Single. Deep. Facing my back door. I moved that month. I haven't hunted since. They say when you're out long enough, the forest can mess with your sense of time. That's not true. What it messes with is your sense of certainty. You stop trusting what you're seeing. That's what happened to me last fall, deep in the blind elk tract. I've never told anyone this. Not really. But I've never hunted since. I had a tag for late-season mule buck. Solo hunt. It was cold, but dry. Good visibility, good sign the week prior. I drove up early Friday, parked by the forestry gate, and hiked in 5 miles to a southern slope I'd glassed before. From the first night, it felt wrong. Not dangerous exactly. Just off. It was too quiet. No wind, no birdsong, no bugs. Even the air seemed held in place. At first, I chalked it up to pressure shift. Sometimes the woods fall into a kind of hush before a storm. But nothing came. No wind, no change. Just silence. The next morning, I went scouting. Saw rubs scat fresh tracks. Muley sign real fresh. But I never saw one. Not a tail, not a shadow moving between trees. The woods were giving me all the signs except the actual animal. Then, around noon, I noticed something strange. A grove of birches. Thin trunks, ghost white. I was sure I hadn't seen them yesterday, and my trail passed right through. Thought maybe I was just tired. Made a mental note, marked it on GPS, took a photo. That evening, I moved camp about a quarter mile east. Standard practice. I don't like staying in one spot too long. As the light fell, I found myself walking back toward the birches. Something about them nagged at me. Couldn't let it go. When I got there, the air felt colder. And on one of the trunks, there was string, red frayed, like it came off clothing. It was tied in a loop, not tight, like it had been left there, not caught. I crouched to inspect the base and saw the ground was bare. No pine needles, no leaves. Just packed dirt in a perfect ring around the trunks. That's when I saw the boot print. Big. Deep. Heading toward my camp. Not mine. I made it back fast, maybe 15 minutes. The tent looked untouched. But something was wrong. My fire pit had been disturbed. Someone tried to cover it with dirt. I checked my gear. Nothing missing. But it smelled different. Not smoke or food. Something older. Musty. Like sweat soaked into wool. It reminded me of my grandfather's barn jacket. I stood there, frozen, for 10 minutes. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear soft crunches outside, like slow footsteps. I'd unzip the tent flap, rifle in hand, nothing. But the smell was stronger. I stuffed my boots inside the sleeping bag with me, just in case. When I finally dozed off, I had a dream. I was standing between the birch trees. Couldn't move. Couldn't turn my head. I wasn't alone. Someone circled me, but I couldn't see their face. They whispered my name, but it sounded like my own voice. I woke just before dawn. My boots were wet, soaked from heel to toe. I'd left them inside the bag, zipped up. No leaks in the tent. No reason they should be wet. I stepped outside, heart pounding, breath fogging. The birch grove was gone. I didn't leave right away. I should have. Any sane person would have packed their gear and bolted. But I told myself it was exhaustion, disorientation, some trick of the terrain. A grove of birches doesn't just vanish. I hiked back to the spot. GPS said I was standing right where I'd marked it. But it was just pine. I circled. Twice. Nothing. That's when I noticed something else. Small piles of rocks, 3 of them, each stacked 6 high, evenly spaced around where the birches had been. I don't know how I missed them before. They weren't there yesterday. I'm sure of that. I didn't touch them. By noon, a fog rolled in. Low, heavy, wet. It swallowed sound. No birds. No wind. Even my own footsteps sounded wrong, like I was walking through cotton. I stayed near camp, rifle loaded. Not for deer. I was done pretending. At dusk, I lit a fire. A real one this time. Bigger than I usually make. I sat close and kept my back to a rock wall. One way in. One way out. That's when I saw the first one. It stood maybe 20 yards away, between 2 pines. I thought it was a man at first. Tall. Motionless. But when I raised my scope, there was nothing there. Just empty woods. I dropped the rifle. Rubbed my eyes. When I looked again, it was closer. 10 yards. It wasn't a man. It was shaped like one, kind of. Too long in the limbs. Head tilted at an angle, like it hadn't figured out how to wear it. I tried to move. Couldn't. My body locked up. My breath got shallow. I blinked. Gone. But when I turned back to the fire, something was hanging above it. A strip of red cloth. I stared at it. It twisted in the heat. A single thread unraveled, falling onto the coals. It sizzled, curled black. Then I heard my name. Once. Whispered. Right behind me. I didn't turn. I ran. I didn't grab my pack. Left the tent. Left the fire. I ran until my lungs hurt. I tripped. Got back up. Branches clawed my face. I didn't care. Just kept running. I don't remember how long. But eventually I hit the forestry road. Collapsed in the gravel. I drove until I hit service. Called my brother. Didn't tell him why, just said I needed help. He let me crash on his couch for 2 weeks. I didn't sleep more than a few hours the whole time. 3 days after I got back, he found something on his porch. A single pine cone. Wet. Wrapped in red thread. He thought it was a joke. I didn't. I moved across the state 2 months later. Started a desk job. Sold my gear. Haven't stepped into the woods since. Sometimes I dream I'm back in that grove. But it's not just birches anymore. It's all wrong, trees too close together, shadows moving through the trunks. The ground bare. And I'm always stuck in place. Watching something step through the fog. Something wearing my face. I've memorized the way it moves. The way it doesn't blink. The way it whispers. You're still here. And the worst part? I always wake up with dirt under my nails. The first shot wasn't mine. That's what I keep telling people, but no one listens. They think I panicked, got spooked, pulled the trigger too early. But I know what I heard. It was still dark, maybe half an hour before sunrise. I was glassing the east ridge of Echo Range. Steep drop, clear view. Perfect spot for elk, if you're patient. I'd hiked in the night before. Solo, like always. Made camp behind a fallen cedar. Checked the wind, set my alarm. I didn't sleep well. Every hour or so I'd wake up with that heart racing feeling like I'd forgotten something. When the alarm finally buzzed, I unzipped the tent and froze. It was dead quiet. Not a bird, not a breeze. Just cold air and that humming kind of silence you get before snow. I took my rifle, checked the scope, started up toward the overlook. Still too dark to shoot, but I wanted to be ready. I just settled behind a log when I heard it crack. Rifle fire. Far off, but clear. I froze. Nobody was supposed to be up there. I checked the registry before heading in. No other hunters logged. This was deep backcountry. No roads, no cabins, no reason for someone to be out there unless they hiked in like I did. I scanned the slope. Nothing moved. Then I heard it again. Same shot. Same direction. Exactly the same. Too exact. It wasn't another shot. It was the same shot. Like someone had recorded it and played it back. Every detail was identical. The crack, the echo bouncing off the cliffs, the faint ring afterward. And then again. Crack. Identical. This time, closer. I chambered around. Stood up slow. Scoped the ridge. Still nothing. Then I saw something move. A flash of orange. Blaze vest. At first, I was relieved. Another hunter. Finally, proof I wasn't crazy. I waved. Raised both arms. They didn't move. Just stood there, watching. I lifted my scope again. They were too far to make out the face, but something was wrong with how they were standing. Too stiff. Too symmetrical. Like someone had posed them. Then they raised their rifle. Pointed it at me. I dropped behind the log. Heart in my throat. No shot came. I peeked over the edge. The figure was gone. Just trees. I packed up right then. No deer was worth that feeling. I kept my rifle out, eyes scanning every inch of brush on the way down. But I didn't make it far. Maybe a mile before I found it. A blaze vest. Lying in the snow. Still warm. Next to it a rifle. Old. Bolt action. Barrel clean. But the stock was splintered, and the butt was soaked red. I didn't touch anything. Just backed away. That's when I heard the fourth shot. Exactly the same as the first. It came from behind me. Closer than before. I didn't run at first. I froze. The fourth shot rang through the trees, so close I could feel it in my chest. But nothing followed, no footsteps, no movement, no breath. Just that thick, unnatural silence returning like a hell breath behind the trees. I turned slowly. Nothing. But the feeling had shifted. The woods didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like something was waiting. Watching. I raised my rifle, slowly back down the trail, never turning away. When I made it back to camp, I kept going. Threw my pack together without bothering to fold anything. I left my stove, half my gear. I just needed distance. Fast. But the forest wouldn't let me. My GPS started acting up. Said I was off trail, even when I was standing on it. Compass spun. I should have gone west, back to the logging road, but every turn felt wrong. Every bend in the trail looked like the last. No matter how far I hiked, I kept coming back to that damn ridge. At one point I passed my own boot prints in the snow. Not old ones either. Fresh. Like I was chasing myself. Or being herded. That night I built no fire. Ate nothing. I kept the rifle in my lap and listened. And sure enough, not long after sunset, I heard the fifth shot. Closer. Same crack. Same echo. Same fake ring. Like a loop. Like someone wanted me to hear it again. And again. And again. It played twice that hour. Then 3 times. Then 5. No variations. Each one perfect. No shell casing. No muzzle flash. Just sound. That's when it hit me. It was a recording. Someone, something, was playing it. Not shooting. Playing. I'd hunted long enough to know, No one fires a rifle with the exact same tone, rhythm, and decay. You can't replicate real gunfire like that in nature. Unless it's not real. Around midnight, I heard something new. My voice. It was faint, but I swear it was mine. Calling my name. From down in the trees. Then footsteps. Crunching. Wet. I raised my rifle, but the sound circled me. Always just out of sight. Always one step too slow. I started muttering to myself. Not prayer, just noise. Just something human. At dawn, I found the second camp. It was mine. Same layout. Same tent. Same gear. Even the same food wrappers. Except, it wasn't exactly right. The tent was zipped shut. I hadn't zipped mine. The boots outside were dry. Mine were wet. I unzipped the flap with the rifle barrel. Inside was me. Sleeping bag zipped. My face. But pale. Eyes closed. And something in the chest, under the jacket, rising too slow to be breathing. I backed away. Didn't even close the flap. I walked straight east after that, ignoring the compass, ignoring everything. Just picked a direction and didn't stop. It took me all day, but I hit the service road by dusk. I didn't look back once. 2 days later, I got a call from the warden's office. A different hunter, someone from upstate, reported finding my original camp. The one I thought I'd left behind. The fire was cold. My gear was there. And next to the tent was a recorder. Old. Weatherproof. Still running. They asked if I wanted it back. I said no. Sometimes, late at night, when my house is quiet, I hear a sharp crack through the trees behind my property. Not loud. Not close. Just familiar. And always the same. Salt Hollow isn't on any map. It's what the old guys at the lodge call that stretch of land behind the flats. Too rocky to farm, too steep to build on. They say the soil's bad. The water tastes wrong. No one hunts there. Not anymore. I didn't know that when I set up my stand. Season was rough. Weather kept shifting, herds moved fast, and every other hunter in the state seemed to be crawling over my usual spots. So when I found that unclaimed parcel past the ridge, I figured I'd hit gold. No trails. No trash. Just clean forest and quiet. Too quiet. No birds. No squirrels. No distant dogs. The kind of silence that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. But the sign was there. Fresh shrubs. Scattered droppings. A few trails pressed thin through the pine. Everything said a herd had passed through recently, maybe bedding nearby. I set up a ground blind just before dusk and waited. Nothing. Not a rustle, not a crack of antlers. Around midnight I started dozing off. Not smart, I know, but fatigue creeps in faster when the woods give you nothing back. I must have nodded off for 20 minutes, maybe less. When I woke, it was pitch black. And something smelled off. Sharp. Metallic. Like copper and rot. I lifted my headlamp and scanned the clearing. That's when I saw it. A gut pile. 15 feet in front of me. Fresh. Still steaming in the cold. I scrambled up, rifle in hand. My heart was jackhammering. It hadn't been there when I dozed off. I was sure of it. I would have smelled it sooner. Heard something. There was no sign of a kill. No drag marks. No blood trail in or out. Just the guts. Perfectly placed. Neat. Almost surgical. I circled it, lights sweeping the undergrowth. No prints. Not even mine. The ground was soft but undisturbed. It didn't make sense. I backed away and nearly tripped over something behind me. Another pile. Smaller. Less fresh. Like it had been there longer. Half frozen. Coated in thin frost. I ran. Not even sure where. Just away. Branches slapping my face, breath loud in my ears. I don't know how far I went before I stopped. But when I did, I was in another clearing. This one was bigger. And ringed with gut piles. 8. Maybe 10. Different stages of decay. Some fresh, some blackened. Some picked clean by nothing I could see. I stood there, frozen. My light dimmed. Batteries dying. Then I heard it. A dragging sound. Wet. Rhythmic. Getting closer. I turned off the lamp. Dropped to the ground. Held my breath. The dragging stopped. Then a sound like breathing. But wrong. Like a throat full of water. Gurgling. I didn't wait. I crawled until I hit a slope, then let myself slide. Twigs tore my jacket, rocks bruised my ribs, but I didn't care. I slid until I hit the dry creek below. Didn't stop moving. Eventually, I found the trailhead. Didn't sleep that night. Didn't tell anyone. But I kept the GPS pin. Because the worst part wasn't the guts. Or the breathing. Or the fact that I'd somehow missed it all earlier. The worst part was what I saw just before I slid down that hill. A blind. Just like mine. Set up across the clearing. And someone was sitting inside it. I should have deleted the GPS pin. I told myself I wouldn't go back. I tried, I really did. But every night I saw that blind, my blind, across the clearing, and the figure sitting inside it. Still as a mannequin. Like it was waiting for something. Or watching. 3 weeks passed. Then I got the call. Buddy of mine, named Kent, had drawn a tag for that county. Was asking around for remote spots. Said he wanted real isolation. I should have lied. Should have told him nothing. Instead, I mentioned Salt Hollow. He called me a week later. His voice was flat. Strained. Something's wrong out here, he said. Bad wrong. I asked where he was. Clearing. Guts. So many. Then the call cut out. I drove through the night. No second thoughts. Took the old logging road and hiked in from the ridge. My gear wasn't even complete. I just needed to find Kent. The woods were quiet. Too quiet. Again. As I closed in, that same smell hit me, copper and decay. The air felt heavier the closer I got. Like the trees didn't want me there. When I reached the clearing, it was worse than I remembered. Dozens of piles now. Rot layered over rot. Flies, even in the cold. And in the middle, Kent's pack. Unzipped. Torn. No blood. No tracks. No Kent. Just silence. Until I heard the drag. I dropped to one knee, scanned the tree line. Nothing. Then movement. Across the clearing. The blind. Someone was sitting inside it. I raised my rifle, took a step closer. The figure didn't move. Closer still. 20 feet. I called out. Kent? No answer. 10 feet. I braced against the tree, scope to my eye. What I saw didn't make sense. The figure wasn't Kent. It wasn't even a person. It was a shape, stitched together. Pieces of fabric, scraps of orange, brown, and black. Stuffed with leaves. A crude facsimile of a hunter. The face was a paper plate, painted red with a child's handprint in the center. Its hands held a broken rifle. And nailed to its chest. Kent's hunting license. I backed away. The dragging sound started again. Closer this time. I turned, and it was right there. Not a person. Not anything I could name. Tall, but bent like it didn't know how to be upright. Skin too pale. Eyes too small. Its mouth opened, and I swear it tried to smile. That's when I saw what it held. Kent's vest. Soaked. It dropped it at my feet. Then it opened its mouth wider. And made the sound of a gunshot. Not a real one. A recording. Exactly like the shot from Echo Range. Then another. And another. 3 shots. All the same. I ran. Didn't stop until I hit the trailhead again. Didn't speak a word to the ranger I passed. Just nodded and kept walking. Kent was never found. I tried explaining once, to a game warden I trusted. He just stared at me, silent. Then said something I've never forgotten. Salt Hollow used to be a burial ground. Animals. Experimental culls. Not official. Nothing in the system. Just a place they used when no one was looking. Stuff went wrong. They burn it all, but sometimes it still comes back. He didn't elaborate. I don't ask anymore. But sometimes, when I wake up too early, I swear I hear that dragging sound just beyond the yard. And I always check the porch to make sure Kent's vest hasn't come home. There's a stretch of road out by Cedar Marsh that hunters call the Spine. It's narrow, no shoulder, just gravel pressed into dirt, and bordered on both sides by woods so thick they block the moon. It's the kind of place you only find if you're looking for it. Or if something wants you to. I was driving back from a duck hunt late one night, just past midnight. I'd stayed longer than I meant to, cleaning gear, packing out. I was alone, as usual. The plan was to take the main highway back, but for some reason, I missed the turn. Didn't even realize it until the road changed. 1 second I was on asphalt, the next I was on that narrow gravel vein cutting through trees like bone. No signs. No lights. Just my headlights on low beam, barely illuminating 20 feet ahead. I should have turned around. But something made me keep driving. 10 minutes in, the radio cut to static. Not all at once, just a slow fade, until it was nothing but soft hissing. My phone had zero service. My GPS froze on a blank screen. I kept going, telling myself the road had to connect eventually. That's when I saw the first one. A deer, standing just off the road. Except it wasn't standing. It was balanced. Perfectly. On its hind legs. Still. Unmoving. Head tilted slightly, like it was listening. I stopped the truck. It didn't move. I flashed the brights. Nothing. Then the headlights flickered, and it was gone. No crashing into the woods. No sound. Just gone. I sat there, pulse thudding, engine rumbling. I started to back up, but the gravel felt wrong under the tires. Like it was too loose, like it wanted to give way. So I shifted into drive and kept going. 2 minutes later, another deer. Same pose. Hind legs. Perfectly upright. Only this one was closer. And there was a second beside it. Both still. Both watching. I didn't stop. Didn't slow down. As I passed them, their heads turned in perfect sync, following me. That's when I realized what was wrong with their eyes. They were glass. Like from a mount. Dead. But alert. Taxidermy? I kept driving. Faster now. The trees thickened, crowding the road until branches scraped the sides of the truck. The static on the radio deepened, became rhythmic, almost like breathing. Then the lights caught movement ahead. Something in the road. I eased up on the brake. It was a man. Or what looked like one. He stood facing me, not moving. Wearing full camo, face painted, rifle slung low. But something was off about his posture. His arms hung too long. His shoulders bent forward like he'd been strung up and let go. I honked. No reaction. He raised one arm, slowly, and pointed at the woods to my right. I looked. Another deer. Standing. Watching. And behind it. Another man. Same posture. Same rifle. Same dead still stance. I gunned it. The truck fishtailed, gravel kicking up like smoke. I didn't stop, didn't blink. Just drove until the trees thinned and the static cut out and the GPS blinked back to life. I didn't look back. But later, at home, I checked the dash cam. It recorded everything. Except for the people. They weren't there. Just the deer. And they were all standing. I didn't sleep when I got home. I just sat in the truck, engine ticking as it cooled, staring at the screen. The dash cam showed every bend in the road, every swerve, every deer, perfectly upright, motionless. But no men. Not even shadows. I replayed it 3 times. Still nothing. At 4 a.m., I uploaded the footage to my laptop. I isolated the frame where the figure had stood in the middle of the road. Zoomed. Enhanced. Nothing there. Just empty gravel. I should have let it go. But I didn't. Instead, I went back. Not that night, or the next. But by the end of the week, I was behind the wheel again. This time earlier, just after dusk. I told myself it was curiosity. Closure. But really, I needed to know if I was losing it. The road was harder to find than I remembered. I had to kill the GPS and follow memory. Even then, it felt like the turn only appeared once I'd stopped looking. Same gravel spine. Same dark trees. Same too-thick silence. I kept the radio off. This time, I brought high beams. They lit up the trees in harsh white. Everything looked more artificial, like a stage set. Too clean. Too arranged. At the 5-minute mark, I passed the first ear. Same posture. But now its head was turned toward me from the start. Like it had been waiting. At 7 minutes, I saw the second pair. Still. Watching. I slowed this time. Let the light linger. Their eyes reflected, but not like normal animals. Too bright. Like polished glass. Their skin looked wrong, too, stretched too tight, like cured leather. Then something stepped out from behind them. It was a man. Or the shape of one. Not moving. But he was holding something. A lantern? No. It was a spotlight, like hunters used to track game at night. He raised it, and the beam hit my truck dead on. My lights flickered. The radio burst to life, garbled speech. Not a station. Not music. Just a loop of breathing and some low, garbled voice repeating something over and over. I killed the ignition. Everything went dark. In that sudden silence, I heard it again, crunching gravel. Slow. Measured. Footsteps. Coming closer. I tried to start the truck. Nothing. The breathing on the radio got louder. Then, a voice, clear this time. "You've been seen." I froze. The passenger side door handle clicked. I didn't wait. I slammed the gear shift, twisted the key again, and the engine finally roared to life. The headlights cut through the dark. Nothing there. No man. No deer. No trees. Just an open field. Where woods had been. I floored it. Didn't stop until I hit a paved road and didn't see gravel again. When I looked in the rearview mirror, there were no headlights behind me. Just something small and white in the bed of the truck. I pulled over 15 miles later, heart still pounding. It was a tag. A hunting tag. My name. My license number. And underneath it, hands scrawled in ink that had bled in the dew. Bagged. I burned it on the side of the road. Never hunted again. But sometimes, at night, when I drive through the quiet parts of the county, I catch a shape in the trees. Just for a second. Still. Upright. Watching. And every time I turn on the high beams, I see the same thing. Glass eyes. My own reflection.